Hey guys, today we're going to go look at a new company called New Holdings. This is a digital bank based in Brazil. And I was very interested in the company because it showed up in one of my scanners. So, as I always do, step number one, I always start with fundamentals. That's the best for me. So, I'm just going to quickly look at news fundamentals and financials. The company start with annual because it gives you a quick trend anyway. The company is doing roughly about 500 million in 2019, 300 million in 2018, growing at about 80%, and then moved down a little bit for 2020. This probably is something I want to look at a little bit more detail, but good back trends, 169% growth now. Trailing 12-month revenues, 5 billion. So that's pretty good. Let's look at gross margins. Gross margins are 3 billion. So that's also pretty good, about 60% gross margins. That's not a bad company at all. And then operating income, they're still negative. They're losing quite a lot of money. So that's a little bit of a concern, but at least on an annualized basis, revenue is growing quickly. So this is a young company growing very fast. And so they're losing quite a bit of money. On a quarterly basis, revenue seems to be slowing down from the 200% to the 199, 160, 130, 96. So it's pretty slow. I mean, it's slowing down, not pretty slow. It's slowing down. What I want to see is if the corresponding operating income losses are also making it slower. But that doesn't seem to be the case. What used to be on a quarterly basis, 60, 70 million is now 200 million. So this is a little bit worrisome, but still something that I'm interested in, just given the size of the growth, growing on an annualized basis at close to 170% last year. And this year looks like it'll grow another roughly about a billion out of four, so roughly about 25 to 35%. Looks very interesting. Let's look at it in a little bit more detail. Okay, now the five-step process for my technical analysis, I almost always will start with what does the high level look like on a long term. This company is fairly small, or fairly recent, sorry. Roughly about, as I've shown, 35 billion in market cap. So it's a decent sized company, if you will. It's forming a nice pattern here of being able to do stage one consolidation or accumulation. And then it's had a rapid growth. It's still not being able to break through the a lot of resistance here seems to be in the $8 range or even in the 826 range. So that's something to watch for at a very, very high level. But it's formed a nice U pattern in terms of growth. On a weekly basis, if I look at the stock, seems to have a W shape. So W1, 2, that's a W. It's had a sequential growth week on week. Every year is that a green candle all the way from, if you look at it, this April to June. So it had a bunch of weeks where it's just gone up. And there's a little bit of exhaustion towards the top. So this would have been interesting for me to say, yeah, it's exhausting. So it's going to catch up. Usually this candle, the doji candle, look at the green candles here, the red candles here, it means exhaustion from both buyers and sellers. So this is the beginning of a new candle streak. So that looks very interesting. So if I had to draw a simple pattern, the first one would be, this is a very strong uptrend. And then after that, we're seeing a little bit of a pull. I wouldn't call it a flag necessarily, but it looks like a very interesting flag pattern that has formed, moved down, and now after the consolidation seems to be moving up. So let's now look at the daily chart. As we've drawn, strong uptrend, consolidation, had a little bit of a break, and then so this might be a very, very good point to draw multiple tests. Look at that. It's tested this price, 664, multiple times. Big red green candle today with a gap up. So I suspect at some point in time, this gap is going to get filled. Not all gaps have to get filled, but it might get filled. And then there's a lot of resistance in the 821 range. So at least from 734 to 821, at 75 cents, roughly about 10%, there seems to be a good size move up. I would expect it, depending on the overall market, maybe test this gap fill again to the 692 range, 683 range. But it does look very, very good. And even if I had to draw something beyond that, just within this time frame, it seems to be respecting at least some of the trends in the stock itself. So within channel, doing okay, broke out of this downtrend channel. That would have been a challenge. Did test this support line, now back up. How do the moving averages look? Most of the moving averages in the daily, not perfectly curling up, but at least they're not bending downward. So that looks like a good one. Let's look at the weekly moving averages. Seem to be flat. So this is not a stock that is going to go up dramatically very quickly would be my guess as well. It gives me a little bit of time to plan the right kind of entry for me to be able to understand when to get into the stock. The perfect entry in the stock would actually be somewhere where it tests on the daily, you see this gap between the 684 close to the open at 692. So somewhere in the 690, 680 range would be a good. Today it got up about 8% almost, 57 cents. So if it does do a test again of this range, I would think that that would be a good one. If not, otherwise, watch this next candle on the daily, see what it does tomorrow. And then it likely is going to touch the 829 range, and it has to break out of this range for it to get over at least the next hurdle. So that's what it looks like overall. RSI is extremely strong today, a relative strength, given it's gone up 10% in a market that's gone up about 2%. So like the stock overall, check it out, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it.